Yo, what's going on? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to another video. So, this story is kind of wild. I mean, considering the substance, it isn't that surprising, I guess. But I'm about to tell you of the night I first tried cocaine, which, beforehand, I had been smoking a bunch, drinking like every other weekend, and drank lean a couple years before. If you're curious about the order of what substances I've taken, it's in order in the Chapter 1 Beginnings of a Psychonaut playlist, which that includes all my first times embarking into a substance. This experience, I would say, unofficially started a chain use of drugs. Like, I believe it was only 5 days later I tried kratom, then a week after I tried DXM, and so on. But I never actually planned on doing cocaine this night. It just happened to pop up, and I was offered the opportunity. But before we get into that, let's set up what was going down this night. So this actually took place the night Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor fought, which the date was August 25th, 2017. I was looking forward to it, and I naturally was looking for some homies to watch it with and get drunk and high. Now it was kinda last second, but Michael ended up having a place, his older brother's best friends. Now if you haven't heard of Michael yet, he's a classic character now with these stories. He's a cool dude that I would say exponentiates the good vibe at a party. But coming with me was the homie Marcel, which Marcel, he's another homie of mine that's been in a few stories. He's a pretty outgoing guy who brings in a good vibe as well. Now I don't remember exactly, but it was only a few hours before the fight when we got everything set up. Marcel and I were thankful because I think his spot got canceled or some shit. Plus, Michael's older brother would easily be able to get us alcohol. Now let me just say that this night isn't really about the fight and what goes down during that. Don't get me wrong, I had a really good time and the fight was a solid show, but things don't really go down until afterwards. Anyways, Marcel and I show up and there's like 3 guys including Michael, a small get together. They had a case of beer and Michael's brother came through and gave me a bottle of Jose Cuervo, silver tequila. Of course, I was happy with that. We were all cooling and watched the fight and whatnot. But during the fight, I get a call from my dude, Evan. Now if you don't know Evan, I'll keep it simple. Evan was my drug partner around this time, and a lot of the first time experiences I've had were with him. I had happened to tell him about that party that Marcelo and I planned to go to earlier, so of course I answered the phone. He asked me what I was up to and tells me afterwards to slide to where he was at, and that they were turning up and having a party at the classic Motel 6, which, the Motel 6 is so ridiculous. Like, it's a fucking brand for sure, but if you know anything about the Motel 6, you know all types of shit goes down there. Now, leading up to this point, a month or so prior, Evan had been telling me that for his sister's birthday, they wanted to rent out a hotel and basically do a bunch of drugs. He was telling me that apparently his sister Grace and our friend Isabel knew some people that would bring cocaine, MDMA, Xanax, acid, or pretty much whatever. Now these intended people don't necessarily show up, and instead some other people, and we'll get into that later. But the thing was, Grace's birthday actually happened the weekend prior, but instead of celebrating, a lot of the money she had, and Evan had, went to Isabel's bond. Now Isabel, she was a friend of ours that would kind of wild out sometimes. More so when she was younger, she would talk a lot of shit and get into a lot of fights basically. But around this point in time, she would get fucked up off the Molly, Xanax, or something similar to that at least every week. But what wound her up in jail was an assault charge. I think it may have been with a weapon or an attempt with a weapon, which I think she had a taser, which no fucking clue how or why she had that. But 2 dudes she used to know, I guess, were fucking with her, and the cops happened to be by while she was about to go ham on them. Anyways, she gets arrested, and she said she had Xanax in her bra too, but Grace happened to be with her, and they had a moment away from the cops together where Grace was able to grab like the 4 Xanax bars she had. Isabel spends a night in jail with some heroin addicts, from what she told us, and we had to pick her up the next day. So the reasons for why this happened out of the blue are laid down. They had to settle for the Motel 6 due to a lack of funds, which the Motel 6 wasn't exactly anything new at this point, but they pretty much spontaneously decided to have a drug party, and I wasn't about to miss out. So I asked if Michael and Marcel want to go to the party afterwards. Marcel wasn't able to, but Michael was down. I think between Michael and I, we barely got through a fourth of the bottle before the fight was over, which ended up being around midnight for us. Marcel and the rest of the guys only wanted to drink beer. But I was excited to get over there, get more fucked up, so we said peace and thanks to the guys, and Marcel drove us over to the motel. Now, I really didn't know what to expect at this party. Evan had told me he only had a bottle and bud, but the thing was, from the way he was texting me and sounded on the phone, either he was super drunk already, or I suspected that he was off something else too. And knowing Isabel and Grace, they were never huge on drinking, so I was expecting they would have done something else. But Marcel drops us off in the parking lot, and we're looking for the room. While almost finding it, I see Evan's car, and the window is rolled down, and he says what up to us, and that he's about to go pick up Isabel. Now this was right outside the room they had, and this is where one of the first characters come in. We'll call this dude Marco. Marco said what up to us as well, and said that we should stay. Now I'm pretty sure the only reason he wanted us to stay was because he knew we were bringing alcohol. And Evan and Marco go back and forth about us coming and us staying, and eventually we just fucking stay. So anyways, we get into the motel, and inside was Grace and another friend of ours we'll call Sarah, along with the group they invited. These people were from a town that is pretty much known for having a bunch of snakes, which I'm not going to say the name, but Isabel invited them, and she was in this phase at the time where she would basically invite thugs to the hangouts and parties we had. Now there were two other guys besides Marco and two other girls. The two guys we'll call Miguel and Dylan, but Dylan doesn't show up until later. The girls we'll name Maria and Angelica. Now, I didn't really know anything about these people until after the fact. I just thought they were some people who were trying to party, do some substances, have a good time or whatever. But starting with Marco, first off, I would find out later this guy was like 33 or something, which I had no idea at the time because he looked nothing like it. I legit thought, he was no older than 25. But to keep it short, this dude was pretty much a loser. I mean, the rest of the group was nowhere near his age. I think Dylan was like 22 or something, Angelica being the same, Miguel being like 20, while Maria was only like 13, being Angelica's little sister. Which, speaking on Maria briefly, they were letting this girl go at it with the alcohol in the squares, which also, they were all pretty much smoking squares when we got there. But I would find out later that Marco was already in question of being on some dirt. I guess a few weeks prior to this, there was a similar situation going on where Isabel blacked out off some Xanax, and when she woke up, she claimed she felt someone had sex with her, and according to everyone else at the time, Marco was the only person in that situation that could have and would have done something like that. Basically, it was under suspicion that this dude might have raped her when she was unconscious. Pretty fucked up shit. If I would have known that, definitely would have not been so cool with the guy from the start. But I'll admit that, a lot of our judgment and responsibility was a lot looser around this point in time. I'm pretty sure Sarah, though, understood and was trying to watch over the situation. Which, if you don't know, Sarah was a friend a few years older than us at the time who liked to turn up with us from time to time. But she was definitely more responsible about most things, though. And she also happened to have some psychotic desires, but that's besides the point. Dylan, on the other hand, seemed to be a dealer, as he was the one who supplied us with the cocaine this night. Now, initially, I didn't think this dude was a bad vibe or anything, but what happens later definitely changes my opinion on that. And the same thing goes for Miguel. He seemed like he wasn't too bad and seemed like he just wanted to get fucked up. Angelica, on the other hand, I would find out did prostitution work, while her younger sister Maria, from what I could tell, was on a similar path to turn out like Angelica. But anyways, keep in mind, Michael and I have no background on these people, and we just go in expecting a good time. So we walk in, say what up and all that to everyone, and have some brief introductions. One thing I noticed, that there was a bottle already empty of Jose Cuervo Blue Agave, but I didn't think too much of it, and we had some shots of the silver tequila Michael and I brought, and proceeded to talk a bit until Evan came back with Isabel. Now when they got back, I can tell that Isabel was pretty fucked up already, so I asked if they took anything or just been drinking a lot. Apparently, They took some Xanax a couple hours prior. Evan took 2 bars while Isabel took 4 of them, which Evan wouldn't really remember shit because of it, and Isabel wouldn't remember anything of this night. And because she was so barred out, that's part of the reason this group and this fucking 33-year-old dude who may have raped her got invited. Her barred ass pretty much just said fuck it and said they can come through. Also part of the reason may have been Grace though, as I know she was pretty irresponsible too, and was really just looking for a guy to hook up with, and also some drugs probably. But when we get settled in, I notice that Sarah has this look of concern, particularly towards the other group. But even regardless of all this shit, it's not bad at first. I'm sure if Evan wasn't barred out at this point though, he would have been pissed. The thing was, the squares everyone had been smoking were from a pack he bought and hadn't even opened yet, and he barely had any of the bottle he brought too, I guess. That the 13-year-old girl, Maria, drank a lot of it apparently, but I'm pretty sure everyone else there did too. But I think at this point Evan was just, too barred to notice any of this happened yet. But it wasn't even 5 minutes later after Evan comes when Dylan shows up holding a bag of coke in his hands. "You guys want to do some blow?" I remember Michael right away said, "Nah, I don't do that." Michael definitely wasn't the guy to go in that direction with his drug use, mainly for health reasons I think. The farthest he would go is with psychedelics, which if you remember the 4th of July story, he was off it. Now I, on the other hand, didn't expect this, but didn't deny him right away. I gave a look of uncertainty, and Evan saw it right away. And Evan asked me, "You down to try it? I'll do it with you. I'll give you a solid amount for your first time." Which, looking back, I should have been more cautious with this decision, especially considering I had been drinking, but I was nowhere near drunk or fucked up off it. So I shrugged and said, "Fuck it, let's do it." Michael looked at me with wide eyes and was like, "What? No way you're gonna do it. I thought you were all healthy, man." Which at this time, and still to this day, I follow a pretty balanced lifestyle. And I just told him, "Hey, I'm most likely gonna do it at some point, if not now." Which, I think if I didn't decide to do it then, I would have definitely soon at some other point. I'm pretty sure I had the plans in my head already for chapter 1 too. But also especially considering a lot of people I was close with either did it or sold it. But keep in mind that this was some random person's coke too. Evan didn't necessarily trust him like that because, well, we had no reason to. He dabbled with cocaine before, so I had him look at it, and from what he can tell, it was up to standard. But the fact that Marco, Dylan, and Miguel were doing it too gave him more reassurance that the stuff wasn't laced or anything. Because this dude Dylan was going in on the coke, so was Marco, but Dylan must have had at least a half gram, if not more this night. But anyways, Dylan hooks us up with a decent amount, and we're all huddled by the sink and this small ass table, so we had a surface to do it off of. I remember Dylan and Marco were going in at it on the small table, with Miguel doing only a moderate amount. Evan set himself up with a line, and he hooks me up with a few bumps worth. Now this was the first time I ever snorted anything too, so it was a really fresh experience at the time. Anyways, Evan does his coke off his license, a classic move if any, and I get a 20 and I just use that. I'll say now that for sanitary purposes, it isn't good to snort through money, but I did the amount that Evan said was good, which I couldn't tell you the dosage, but it was enough. Now once I went in and snorted it, it felt kinda weird having something go through your nostril the first time. I'm pretty sure Evan told me to use the right nostril too or whatever, which it doesn't actually matter, but I'm pretty sure the rumor was one side goes down while the other goes straight to your brain or something. Anyways, I snorted, and initially it was almost like I woke up, and I thought, okay, for the first minute. Now right after I did it, someone brought up something about wanting more weed and that we were out. Evan stepped up and said that he was down to get some more, which his plug at the time only lived 6 minutes from where we were, so it wasn't out of question. Michael and I were naturally going to go with Evan, but Isabel and Sarah wanted to come too. Sarah offered to drive since Evan was barred out, and now he just did some coke. So we're going to end it there. The story is pretty long, so there will be 2 parts. If you guys did enjoy this first part, let me know below and we'll get to making more stories. If you guys did like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, follow the socials, keep a lookout for part 2. It's been someone that's no one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.